And after a brief lunch break, we are back here at Building Blocks in Tel Aviv at the Jaffa port. And I'm joined by Eva Beylin, who, funny enough, I don't know anything about. I walked around thinking, as I often do at crypto events, that there are so many guys here and not enough women. And I asked around and said, are there any incredible women here who I could perhaps interview? And I was immediately pointed in the direction of Eva. So here we are. Eva, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and, where you came from, what you do, how you fell into crypto, and what makes you so awesome?
Sure. So, Eva Beylin, originally from Canada, living in Mexico at the moment.
Okay. Nobody's perfect.
I
say that both on your Canadian roots and on the fact that you're not living here in Israel.
Yeah. I was in management consulting and working in New York, mainly for financial services
Why does
companies.
everybody start with their career?
Well, you asked me how I got into crypto, and so the story.
We'll get there eventually, but where did you grow up? Who is your best friend in kindergarten? I like to dive deep. You can't learn about somebody based on where their degree or first job was from. You need to know what their favorite color is. And
I actually think my favorite color changes per season of my life.
Okay.
Which is very indecisive. But I grew up in Canada. My parents are Russian, and so it was part of sort of the immigrant population of Canada, or Toronto specifically. So I grew up in a very multicultural country, and very similar to a lot of the Ethereum people. There's quite a few Canadians in Ethereum.
That's
Most
true.
People don't realize that.
Elon is semi grew up in Canada. Grew up in
Really?
South Africa. He's not. I guess he's an honorary member of the crypto community. He doesn't build in crypto, but he's definitely a big supporter and proponent of it. So he grew up in South Africa and then moved with his family to Canada.
Nice.
And then only after. So he's got Canadian roots.
I didn't know that. We should discuss that. There's Vitalik, Joe Lubin, Hart Lambert. There's quite a long list of Canadians that defected and left Canada for the greater world to build crypto in. Many went to the U.S., myself included. If you don't want to talk about work, I can talk about fun stuff. I'm really into art.
I want to talk about work, but we'll fun stuff first.
Okay, I'm really into art.
Cool.
Used to go to art galleries as a child, and it just
you like looking at it, or you also create?
I also created. So it started as a youth that was just interested, and then I started painting myself.
Awesome.
And I would say the peak of my art career so far is I made a meme. This was at the peak of the bull market, and Elon Musk retweeted my meme, and then I sold that meme as an NFT. And that was peak NFT season as well. I don't know if that could happen again, but
I was going to say, really art, you must have enjoyed the NFT season.
Absolutely. As a buyer and as a creator.
It definitely I think I've always liked art, but kind of curiously from the side. I think that was my most fun part of being in crypto was Art Basel and some of the really cool artists that I met within the NFT communities. I think NFTs just generally, and now we're jumping to crypto, gave a wonderful platform for artists to create communities around their art and just to get it in front of more people on a wider scale.
Totally. And your shirt speaks for itself.
Thank you.
NFTs, yeah. I think NFTs are slightly misunderstood.
No, go back. Okay, so you grew up in Canada.
Yep.
And you like art, and then you went and studied something.
Economics and Spanish.
Random. That's why you're living in Mexico.
Yeah. In Canada, you have to learn French. And so I learned French, and French is not very useful. And Spanish is just beautiful. So I remember being okay, I kind of want to be able to use my new languages in different ways, different spaces. And so I learned Spanish. And here, I didn't expect to move to Mexico, but it happened.
Okay. So you studied Spanish, and then what was your first job?
Out of college, it was management consulting.
Okay.
My first job ever was at a corn dog stand at the local fair in Toronto. There's an annual fair at the end of the summer, and so I remember learning how to run a business based on our corn dog supply.
And did that what did you learn from that experience? Your corn dog experience?
Corn dogs are fucking delicious. That's one thing you learn.
So that was a never get high on your own supply kind of thing, where it was one corn dog for you, one corn dog for me.
One thing you learn working at the fair is it's so much, everything is really an attention market. And the fair itself is full of a lot of bogus stuff, right? These toys that you could probably buy from the dollar store, but everyone's willing to spend $100 to try and hit the dart or hit the balloon with the dart. So there's something there around, it actually could be related to meme coins in a way, just capitalizing on attention and how many other industries actually are basically fluff but capitalize on attention. I'd say fairs and carnivals are probably at the top.
It's a great case in point. I grew up going to summer camp in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, and they had this like county fair every year where they had like the pig races and stuff like that. Really fun. And I remember once when I was a kid, I spent like all the money I had in the world on buying this ventriloquist doll. Because like of the attention that like the attention factor that you mentioned, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I had to have it. I like begged my parents to let me spend my money on it, and we still have it in my house, and my kids were like playing it with it over the weekend, and like, why do we even have this thing? Where did it come from? And I was like, you gotta be careful with that. That's like, it has both a lot of sentimental value to me, and also like I remember how expensive it was, how like what it took of me to but like in hindsight, they're like, why would you spend so much money on this? I guess it was like going back to the attention factor.
And did you learn how to be a ventriloquist with the doll?
I could like put on a good show for little kids who can't notice how crap I am. But like once you get past the age of 2, it's pretty obvious.
It's just a puppet. That's funny.
Yeah. Okay. So corn dogs at the county fair, and then consulting.
Yeah. So I went to a business school in Canada. You can go to undergrad business school. So yeah, I went straight into sort of like the boot camp, the business boot camp.
Okay.
In Canada first, and then New York, and most of my clients were banking, financial services type customers, and really wanted to just like learn more about that industry. And as I was there, like a lot of our work was, either procurement or which is like reducing costs in the supply chain of finance, or helping them advance their technology, digitizing whatever might be going on. And I was learning about blockchain at this time, and my brother actually had started working at Consensus. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing? It's like putting duct tape around a broken machine. And I would, start suggesting blockchain in the meetings, and everyone was like, yeah, okay, you young analyst.
Enough of that shit.
Yeah. And so at some point I was just like, I'm running to the bathroom too often to look at crypto Twitter. This is no longer healthy. I need to get out. And so I quit.
And went full-time crypto
Full-time crypto. Full-time crypto Twitter, yeah. But defected from the stable world of finance and whatever. And then moved to Thailand, actually. That was my first job in crypto. Was, if you recall, Omise Go, the OMG token.
What's it called?
Omise Go.
Omise Go?
It used to be called Omise Go by some people. It was the OMG token.
Cool.
And they were kind of the predecessor.
What year is this?
So this was 2018. I joined 2018. They started around 2017.
Meme coins in 2018?
It wasn't a meme coin. It was like the classic ICO.
It's a utility token.
Utility token. I would say it's the predecessor to most L2s. Like a lot of the Optimism, Arbitrum work was inspired by the work that Omise Go was doing, but wasn't capable of delivering. So spent some time in Thailand before kind of coming back.
Was that fun? Just like breaking out of like corporate America, or corporate North America,
absolutely.
rather?
I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things about Thailand. The culture. I actually think Mexico City is a lot like Bangkok, and it's like the other side of the coin, or like the other side of the world version of Bangkok is Mexico City. But I mean, the culture is beautiful. It's this like mix of like literal beauty and nature, and also very industrialized. Like there's air conditioning everywhere. Maybe the most air conditioning I've ever seen or experienced. You're eating fruit off the street. Oysters off the street.
Wow, that's so nice. Okay.
So spent about a year there. It was good. It was especially a good learning experience, but I felt like I wasn't, kind of meeting my potential. Worked at the Ethereum Foundation for a few months after that, helping them bootstrap some of their sort of like expansionary initiatives, like ecosystem growth. We were helping with some of the website initiation, workshops, that kind of thing. Left that, and then was kind of bouncing around in crypto. I personally believe in sort of like picking your horse, and I don't like this like 1 year here, 1 year there.
Interesting.
So I was like, I'm going to spend some time finding out. So I ended up working with the Graph for 5 years. I actually just stepped down about a month and a half ago. But
in what capacity were you there?
I was director of the Graph Foundation. Okay. So I was part of the original team that launched the Graph, was leading ecosystem when we launched.
So for those of you who are not familiar, tell us a little bit about the Graph.
Yeah. So basically, when you look at an application like Uniswap, the data that you see on there from the blockchain has to be derived from somewhere. And it's very difficult for app teams to run their own node and index the data and then query the data efficiently. And so the Graph solved this problem where we built a standardized API to be able to query that data. So for example, if you wanted to see trade volumes or trading pair data or the result of a governance proposal, there would be something called a subgraph. And that subgraph, can be defined in however way that team wants to define it. So, okay, I want to see all the votes and I want to see all the voters and
Wow.
I want to see the results. And all these are open source as well. So what's cool is Uniswap might build a subgraph, but then every other team in the world that wanted to see Uniswap's data or build an app on top of it could also use the Uniswap subgraph.
The main graph would derive its information from the subgraph. Like, how do you make sure that it's uniform?
So it doesn't have to be uniform in the sense that every subgraph could be different.
Have arbitrage. Yeah?
Well, it's not for writing.
Okay.
So it's read only, meaning Uniswap and all these teams are using other things like RPC to actually write to the chain. So that would be to process a transaction. But to see the data on the application, you'd use something like the graph. And the graph itself is like the amalgamation of the thousands of subgraphs that exist. We now also have other products, substreams. There's quite a few really exciting things in the works. Working on a knowledge graph.
What was it, like a small team?
Yeah.
5 years is a long time in this industry. That's like forever and ever and ever.
Absolutely. So
so you must have like really seen it grow and like be implemented across the board. That must have been a lot of fun to watch. And I guess like if the fact that you were there for such a long period of time is a testament to the horse that you chose.
Yeah.
But now walk me through like your decision to leave and what you're doing now. That must have been a hard decision to make.
Yeah. So we launched the network, which was fabulous. It was late 2020. So like everything was just kind of recovering out of the bear market. And at that time, almost every app that you could think of was using the graph in some way. And everything went swell. We launched the foundation. Things obviously went downhill with the bear market after FTX and everything, but we really have done a great job of sort of pioneering like decentralized ecosystems beyond the decentralized network. Mm-hmm. So we had seven core dev teams all around the world. One was actually in Israel for some time. And so it was really rewarding. And like, I definitely learned a lot. And I would say our impact has been huge because most people, if they're not directly using the Graph network or haven't, then they're using another provider that's using the Graph node, which is the infrastructure behind subgraphs. And at some point last year, I realized, I was getting a bit tired. I've been doing this for 5 years. And I believe in being honest as a leader and knowing when your, time is up. And so there were quite a few people on my team that just were, really killing it, especially our head of growth, who is now the foundation director. His name's Nick Hansen. And so it was really just an honest decision of like, look, I know what the graph needs to head into this next chapter of growth. We can tell things are riling up again. The momentum's back in Web3. And I just don't have that same energy as I did when.
Wow, that's a really mature decision.
When we launched. Yeah, and I mean, you have to be honest as a leader. I think that's one of the best or most important qualities.
Okay, but going along with your choosing your horse philosophy, I'm assuming you didn't just like leave Mittendrin, like you have a new horse, or? So
right now I'd say on my full-time side, I'm taking a break, but I do other things in crypto. So I'm on the board of directors of Optimism, largest layer 2 stack in Ethereum. I've been working with Optimism for the last 2 years in that capacity. And then I also invest on the side a little bit with eGirl Capital. eGirl Capital.
eGirl Capital?
Yeah.
Not familiar with them?
So it's like a non-collective. Most people are a non. I'm not a non. But most of the team's a non. And it behaves sort of like a syndicate or a DAO. Okay. And we invest together. We've been investing for the last 3 or 4 years now.
Cool.
We don't have any LPs.
All women?
No, mostly not women.
Okay. Why?
Actually,
why
I don't even know. I think it was, an excitement for the world of e-girls, whether being a woman or respecting women in the digital world. But, half of the team, I actually don't know if they're women or not because they have a non-profiles and I just don't, some of them I know their real names, some of them I don't at all, which is kind of a fun part of crypto is like you never really know who you're interacting with.
Wow. Okay. So investing a little bit, advising a little bit, and chilling.
Yeah. So it was only about a month and a half ago that I stepped down from my role. Really trying to take a break and just like rediscover what I'm, connected with in Ethereum. I think it's hard to stay up to date with everything.
That's really cool.
And I feel like now I can actually reconnect with my Ethereum maximalism roots.
Now at the current token price?
Yeah, I mean, with the graph, like we were multi-chain. The graph is multi-chain, and our thing was always like we actually don't care which chain people build on because if you need data, you're going to use the graph anyways. Right. And so that was really exciting. I got to be exposed to all these chains, but now that I have time, I can actually focus on one or two ecosystems, and Ethereum and Optimism are definitely the ones I focus most on.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, very refreshing outlook. I love to hear it. Um, just so we could like end with a little bit of hopium. What are your thoughts for the industry in the near to distant future?
So
And it's okay if you say like I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because you basically did just say that.
Yeah, I am trying to wrap my head around it. I will say there's a bit of sort of like a coming to Jesus moment with capitalism that I think the Ethereum community is having.
Interesting.
Make capitalism great again, or make Ethereum capitalist again would be like a good line. And I have feedback for the Solana community, and I have my thoughts, but I think what's actually really positive is, you need a competitor to kind of level
Drive
you up.
innovation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Coke wouldn't be what it is without Pepsi, same Apple and Android. And so I think it's actually bringing a lot of realism to the Ethereum ecosystem around, okay, we should be prioritizing revenue. We should be prioritizing talent, competency, all these things that are actually quite basic, but because Ethereum, didn't have a competitor for so long and was this philosophical leader, I think it allowed the Ethereum ecosystem to kind of, drink its own Kool-Aid for a while. And there's good things and bad things. I would say like Ethereum started off decentralization, hardcore, and had to try and find product market fit, whereas Solana kind of was taking the other approach where they didn't really care about decentralization, centralized first to find the product market fit and have started decentralizing slowly. And we're ending up, in similar places at different times. Obviously, some use cases are more predominant in, Ethereum versus Solana. The interesting thing
is that like the history matters. Like when you look at, they might be in like a similar place now, but in the end, like your philosophies that drove you to get to where you are, even if you get to the same place, like kind of like shape what people view
Totally.
of you. I think Ethereum is having a really hard time now, like just like around like their narrative. Okay, one last question, then I'll let you go. I just had this conversation with somebody last night. Like, I think Ethereum is building some really cool stuff. However, their token performance has been, subpar, and doesn't really matter. Like, and this is something that I talk to clients about all the time when they, are building some really cool infrastructure and like, okay, and now we're going to launch a token. And like, you should think really carefully, like if you need a token, because unfortunately in our space, people are very quick to judge the quality of a product, as good as it is or isn't, based on the performance of their token. So people look at CMC, like I'll tell somebody about this really cool product and they'll be like, oh, I just went on CoinMarketCap and like their token has performed so poorly, but really who the fuck cares? Like you also have so many meme coins that have, insane graphs, but have no value to show for it. So like, does it really matter? Does it need to matter? And what can we learn from that?
I think it does matter in the sense that, these are public markets. We have not been close to fundamentals for a long time. I think we're starting to veer more towards fundamentals, and that is protocol revenue. And so there, the protocols that are creating real value are value buys. If their market cap is underestimating the value of the chain or the protocol revenue, I think that's a great opportunity. I think that there is a lot of work to be done around token economics in general. And most teams are a little hesitant to update their token economics because, maybe it's a security risk where they're worried about the community reacting. But, even in traditional markets, it's quite common for every quarter, there's a quarterly report and the team announces, hey, we're doing a buyback, or hey, we're changing this thing, or we're splitting shares, or whatever it might be. And I don't think we need to take the same tactics, but, there should be a little bit more, I think, flexibility around economics. And, I think we will see a return to sort of like realism there. With Ethereum in particular, I'm on the optimism side, so very L2 focused, but I think that there is a lot of rhetoric right now around, hey, L2 should be returning the value to L1, and like they're stealing all the MEV. And I kind of take the opposite approach of, why hasn't the layer one Ethereum ecosystem figured out how to capture that value? It's not really on the L2s.
I think it's the other side. Like they should be providing value as the as the infrastructure drivers. Like otherwise, why people are going to keep coming to you? Like there's no narrative around why you should launch on EVM if the foundation and the core infrastructure team is not like giving you a reason to do that.
Sure.
It's like if you build it, they will come kind of thing. But if you're not building it, then fuck off.
Yeah. And I mean, most of the L2s are delivering on what was the vision of a lot of the ETH researchers of scalability. And so I think this rhetoric is really negative and kind of malicious to an extent. It's just kind of people with ETH bags that are upset. But I think that we are going to see sort of a transition to more of the ETH community realizing, okay, here is what we can do to capture more of that value, or figure out what is the right way to capture it, because it might not be directly in price, but it might be in fees. It might be raising fees on the network. And so validators and stakers are making more. And it could be not only Ethereum L1, right? There's so many counterparts within the chain, or the stack of the chain, and kind of what you're building on as a dApp. And so I think there is value returning, but it we are having a come to Jesus moment. People aren't going to make billions of dollars on Hopium or nothing shipped.
Some people will, but
some people will, but very few people will, I think, moving forward.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate, like I said, like you have a really refreshing approach, and it's nice to hear it. Fortunately, most of us live in like echo chambers, and like we hear the same stuff again and again and again. So like I appreciate you showing a different side of things, and wishing you just enjoy the downtime that you're having now before you jump into the next thing, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Code. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, and to tune in again next week for more fun and insightful conversation.